defend this line. And in talking to the men and women in uniform, they're proud to be here. They're excited to be here. They're motivated to be here because they're defending their friends, their family, their communities, their church, their schools, their loved ones from an invasion of people whose intentions we don't know.
A deadly cartel boss is waging war on America after 12 members were taken down, tons of seized, and millions in cartel cash confiscated. One of their leaders is hitting back. El Chapo Isidro just sent a chilling warning, and if history tells us anything, shed will follow. This isn't just about Mexico anymore. Cartels are running military-style operations, smuggling armored trucks, gold-plated rifles, and enough fentanyl to poison millions. They've assaulted rivals, ambushed law enforcement, and even executed a US-based distributor after luring him across the border. Now, with rising tensions and direct cartel threats, one question remains: when will the violence spill over? And is the US ready for what's coming? Let's uncover the shocking details the government doesn't want you to know.
Le repetimos, ayúdenos a eliminar esta bola de lacres pasando información. Ya tenemos ubicados a la mayoría. Pura gente del señor Mencho y del jefe 3 y hasta la muerte con el señor de los gallos.
In a massive multi-state operation, Trump's law enforcement just delivered a major blow to one of North America's deadliest drug cartels. After months of undercover work, wiretaps, and high-stakes surveillance, agents finally made their move, targeting a cartel network tied to infamous drug lord Fausto Isidro Meza Flores, aka El Chapo Isidro. This takedown hit California, Arizona, Iowa, and Colorado, with over 150 federal, state, and local officers joining forces. They took down 12 cartel members, but 10 more are still on the run, some believed to be hiding out in Mexico. One of the biggest clashes happened near the US-Mexico border, where what was supposed to be a raid erupted into a full-scale battle. Cartel gunmen packing AR-15s, AK-47s, and even grenade launchers ambushed law enforcement in a brutal firefight. The night lit up with explosions and gunfire. When the dust settled, a deadly firefight erupted, but the victory came at a price. 3 federal agents were badly wounded, and 1 local police officer was killed, his bulletproof vest shredded by armor-piercing rounds. This wasn't just about arrests, it was about stopping a tidal wave of deadly drugs. Agents seized over 1,000 kilograms of meth, coke, and fentanyl. To put this into perspective, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be fatal. The amount confiscated is enough to wipe out entire cities. But the most shocking find was a semi-truck packed with 1.4 million pills disguised as prescription meds. According to the DEA, that single load had enough fentanyl to kill the entire population of Los Angeles several times over. The cartel wasted no time showing they won't go down quietly. A US-based distributor tied to this operation was lured into Mexico and never made it out. Days later, his body was found in Tijuana, hands bound with barbed wire, his face completely destroyed from brutal torture. The cartel's message was clear: betray us and you'll suffer. And that's not all. Cartel enforcers have vowed revenge against US officials. Some sources even claim El Chapo Isidro himself sent out threats, promising to strike back at law enforcement and high-ranking government officials who played a role in the crackdown. And this allegedly includes Border Czar Tom Homan, the top official overseeing US border security.
There are reports that the cartels plan to attack Border Patrol agents with suicide drones. How are you going to fight that?
Well, look, I've said for a while that the cartels aren't going to take this lightly. When we secure the border, we're taking billions of dollars out of their pockets, right? Because they're making record amounts of money in alien smuggling, trafficking women and children, and so they're not going to go away, quietly. They're going to fight this thing. So, we're going to take them on. Look, we got the military on the border now. Border Patrol agents are well aware of the threats. There will be violence, and it's something we're prepared to handle. But I warn to the cartels: if they harm a border patrol agent, one of our soldiers, President Trump will not hesitate to take extreme action.
Alongside the Agents seized 10 firearms, $250,000 in money, and advanced encrypted communication devices. One of the wildest finds was 2 gold-plated AR-15 rifles hidden inside a 55-gallon barbecue grill, proving just how deep cartel influence runs. This was a huge win for law enforcement, but everyone knows the fight is far from over.
And while Robert Murphy, who leads the DEA's Atlanta division, says drugs are nothing new, where many shipments are now coming from might be a surprise.
A Sinaloa and a CJ&G.
Latin American cartels moving drugs to and through Atlanta.
So the highways, you can go up the East Coast, you can go out to Midwest, you can go, we have the highway system that makes it easy. All the drugs come through here, stockpiled, and they're shipped all over the U.S., and then the money comes back and it's stockpiled and then they're shipped down.
Atlanta is effectively a warehouse.
It's a warehouse.
And according to the DEA, it is a major warehouse.
So Atlanta, it's safe to say, in your view, Atlanta is one of the top 3 distribution hubs for the Sinaloa cartel in the United States.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it.
Cartels have a long, bloody history of striking back hard when their operations get disrupted. Police and federal agents are now on high alert, bracing for the next cartel move. Before we dive into the chilling threat the cartels have issued against the US, let's talk about a name you might not have heard as often as El Chapo or El Mencho, but one that's just as deadly. Meet Fausto Isidro Meza Flores, better known as El Chapo Isidro. This guy is the definition of a ghost, silent but lethal, running one of the most powerful drug empires in North America while staying out of the spotlight. Unlike the flashy cartel bosses who love flaunting their wealth on social media, Isidro operates in the shadows. He got his start under the Beltran Leyva organization, BLO, one of Mexico's most brutal cartels. When BLO split from the Sinaloa cartel in 2008, he took control of key drug routes in northern Mexico, smuggling meth and fentanyl, 2 of the deadliest drugs destroying American communities. Overdoses are now the #1 cause of drug-related deaths in the US, and meth addiction continues to ravage small towns across the Midwest and South.
We are in the midst of the worst crisis in US history. The drug is fentanyl, and unlike cocaine and heroin, it's a purely chemical, man-made drug. It's cheap to produce, easily smuggled, and packs an incredibly addictive punch, 50 times more powerful than heroin.
Isidro's cartel has been linked to industrial-scale drug labs, pumping out massive amounts of these deadly substances every month. And he's not just a drug lord, he's a strategist. His men are trained in guerrilla warfare, they use encrypted communications, and they've even recruited former Special Forces operatives to sharpen their tactics. But now, things are getting even more intense. After the recent crackdown ripped away 12 of his men and millions of dollars in drugs and cash seized, Isidro is said to be plotting revenge.
Señor Gobernador de Tabasco, Javier May, según el secretario tiene su apoyo para que el CJNG agarre todo. Tenemos pruebas de que ya se les pagaba, pero son mugrosos. Tenemos videos de C4 donde agarran las camionetas de nosotros y los han dejado ir con pruebas, señor. Y pues la paz está en sus manos. Cambia a ese mugroso que no le es leal a la patria. Y a quien ponga, que sea neutral. Saludos. Pueblo unido se le promete paz total.
Reports suggest that Isidro's cartel has been stockpiling weapons and explosives along the US-Mexico border, gearing up for large-scale retaliation. Some reports even suggest his organization is behind the cartel spy drones spotted within US soil, with Isidro now on the FBI's 10 most wanted list and a $5 million bounty on his head. Law enforcement on both sides of the border is on high alert, but taking him down won't be easy. He's already survived multiple assassination attempts and near captures. His ability to adapt and evade authorities has made him one of the most elusive and dangerous figures in the cartel underworld.
FBI Acting Director Brian Driscoll announced the addition of Fausto Isidro Meza Flores to the Bureau's 10 most wanted fugitives list.
Known as El Chapo Isidro, he's accused of spending the last 20 years flooding the United States with fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, and other deadly drugs.
And to make things even more scary, the violence at the US-Mexico border is escalating after the attack on Isidro's cartel. Ever since Trump returned as president in 2025 and officially declared war on the cartels, the threats have only escalated. Bomb scares, weaponized drones, and relentless gunfights. But now, things are about to reach a whole new level of chaos.
And that's why President Trump designated them terrorist organizations. I would send a warning to them. You heard a border patrol agent, you heard a soldier. The wrath of President Trump's going to come down.
The cartels don't just kill, they make examples out of people. Whether it's law enforcement, politicians, or rivals, their assassinations are as public as they are gruesome. And the past attacks show exactly what the US is now facing. Take the brutal murder of DEA agent Enrique "Kiki" Camarena in 1985. His undercover work exposed the Guadalajara cartel, and they retaliated with unimaginable brutality. He was kidnapped, tortured for over 30 hours, and executed. His death changed the war on drugs forever, proving that the cartels are not afraid to target American agents.
It was a brutal day in the drug wars of Mexico, and an American drug agent is one of the victims. The body of Enrique Camarena was found today, beaten, bound, wrapped in plastic, and dropped in the field. He had been missing for a month.
The bodies were found along a well-traveled highway about 70 miles from Guadalajara. The bodies were taken to a hospital morgue in nearby Zamora. The commander of the Mexican police task force investigating the disappearance of Camarena arrived. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration's top man in Mexico was also there. He looked shaken as he left.
Fast forward to 2024, and the bloodshed still carries on. In Michoacan, two political candidates, Armando Perez and Miguel Zavala, were brutally gunned down within hours of each other. Their crime was merely running for office in cartel-controlled territory. The message was clear: step out of line and you die. Now, with the crackdown on El Chapo Isidro's cartel, many are asking, who's next? Cartels don't fight fair. When they strike back, they hit hard and without warning. Law enforcement convoys, military patrols, even U.S. agencies, they're all potential targets.
An election cycle stained by blood. No one in Mexico seems to be safe. Candidates, campaign workers, political party members, and even relatives, all targets of political violence.
One of the deadliest examples was the San Sebastian del Oeste ambush in 2015. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, wiped out a convoy of police officers using high-powered rifles, grenade launchers, and IEDs. Within minutes, 15 officers were dead. Another chilling attack came in 2011 when Los Zetas gunmen ambushed an armored vehicle carrying ICE agents Jaime Zapata and Victor Avila. Their vehicle was riddled with AK-47 and AR-15 rounds. Zapata was killed. Avila barely survived.
There's nowhere to run. We're trapped in the front two seats. And I could see Jaime get hit with the handgun.
The cartels will kill anyone. Rival cartel members, law enforcement, civilians, even Americans aren't off limits. In 2010, the San Fernando migrant massacre saw 72 migrants kidnapped and slaughtered, their bodies dumped in mass graves. Los Zetas hitman Marciano Milan Vasquez dismembered a young girl in front of her parents before killing them too, just to send a message.
It's going to be life in prison for a Mexican cartel assassin who dismembered a 6-year-old girl with an axe and forced her parents to watch as she died. 34-year-old Marciano Milan Vasquez was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences today in federal court. The member of the Los Zetas cartel was convicted on a number of counts, including murder, conspiracy, and charges. He killed at least 29 people in northern Mexico between 2009 and 2015 when he was arrested here in San Antonio while living under a fake name.
These photos are all that's left from the massacre of 72 migrants in Mexico 10 years ago. They were mostly Central Americans, crossing Mexico to reach the US, when a criminal group lined them up and shot them in this ranch.
Today, these ruthless criminals are pushing further into the U.S. than ever before. In 2025, Border Patrol agents came under fire at the U.S.-Mexico border. A .50 caliber round tore through a patrol vehicle's engine block, nearly killing the agents inside. And back in late 2024, a cartel hit squad executed a Marine veteran in Sonora, just miles from the Arizona border. And these are just 2 small glimpses of a much bigger, bloodier picture.
Just days ago, a young U.S. Marine Corps veteran named Nicholas Quetz from Arizona was driving through Mexico very routinely. Who would think this could happen? For a beach weekend with his great friends, everybody loved him, he had a lot of friends. When he was viciously gunned down on the highway and murdered by members of a Mexican cartel.
Cartels aren't just fighting to hold their ground, they're expanding it. Their response to the latest crackdown is coming. If history tells us anything, we're looking at more border violence, gunfights, targeted assassinations, drone strikes, and ambushes on law enforcement. Cartels aren't just dealers, they're fully armed insurgents, and their arsenal proves it. These groups have more than just pistols and rifles. They've got high-tech, military-grade weaponry, and they're not afraid to use it. Let's start with drones, not the kind you buy at Best Buy. Cartels have been rigging drones with explosives, turning them into flying bombs.
So of course, that reporting by Ali really shows how the cartels have evolved over the years, how they've been able to increase their communications technology now with these drones that have the capabilities of actually dropping explosives. It really shows how much more these cartels have evolved, and the threat level has increased even more so now.
Some reports even suggest they're using swarm tactics, sending out multiple drones at once to overwhelm police and military forces. These aren't just a gimmick, they're a battlefield advantage that law enforcement is struggling to counter. Then there are the narco tanks. Cartels have been building their own armored vehicles, massive, steel-plated trucks that can take on SWAT teams head-on.
Te vamos a macizar, hijo de tu puta madre. Agárrate, que ahí te vamos con el comandante M2. Amacicen todos los cabrones. Lara, ahí dile a todos los putos que se amacicen.
Fuerzas Especiales Mencho!
Some of these monsters are equipped with gun turrets, battering rams, and reinforced armor that can shrug off bullets like nothing. The Mexican government has confiscated a few, but for everyone they take down, cartels are building more, and it doesn't stop there.
That's the house where inside federal investigators found a massive gun smuggling operation with ties to the Mexican cartel.
No one was more surprised than myself, Brian, on that case, really. Once we got there, I live in that area.
Jeffrey Boschek is the special agent in charge for the ATF's Dallas Field Division.
That was a shock to my system, really, and I think the majority of DFW residents don't realize that this could be going on in their neighborhood.
At the home inside a closet, ATF agents found 150 gun boxes, empty boxes. Investigators say Jose Carlos Rivas, a Mexican citizen, paid more than a half-dozen U.S. residents to buy guns for him. Rivas, who was sentenced to 30 years in prison, then disabled the guns, wrapped them in plastic, and hid them in car tires as he smuggled them to Mexico. Federal agents say this is a common tactic. In the CBS News report, Arming Cartels, a gun smuggler showed how he hid an AR-15 inside the rear seat of a car and a handgun inside the gas tank to get them across the border.
It's a huge problem on both sides, right? I would say it's the ATF's and the Dallas Field Division's #1 priority.
The cartels have access to serious firepower, AK-47s, AR-15s modified to fire full auto, grenade launchers, and even rocket-propelled grenades.
This has been a major bipartisan failure of the United States government for many decades now. You wouldn't believe when I was raising this issue, there were people in the government who said, no, they're not really military weapons that go to Mexico, it's just handguns. But then to me, you're missing the point if they're purchasing, serious killing power.
They're seeking a level of weaponry that outguns Mexican law enforcement authorities. We see machine guns, like the M134 minigun kit, for instance, which is used by the American military and is capable of shooting 2,000 to 4,000 rounds per minute.
In one infamous attack, cartel gunmen shot down a Mexican military helicopter with a rocket launcher. If they can do that, imagine what they could do to Border Patrol agents or police officers caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. As for where these weapons come from, many are trafficked from the U.S. through underground networks, bought legally before being smuggled south.
Ready?
That was a Barrett .50 caliber rifle, just one example of the type of firearm that Project Door traced directly from Mexican cartels back to purchases in the U.S.
This is in fact a weapon that is in the hands of the cartel, bought somewhere in an American store.
Yes.
And the cartels have deployed these against the Mexican military.
Oh yeah, they're fighting back against with your .223 5.56 round.
But cartels aren't just relying on American guns, they're getting weapons from corrupt military officials in Latin America, Eastern Europe, and even China. They've even built their own private communication networks. Some have hacked into government radio frequencies, while others use encrypted messaging apps that law enforcement can't crack. They operate like a military force, with scouts, lookouts, and encrypted command centers. Law enforcement is scrambling to keep up, but they're often outgunned and outmaneuvered. The cartels have the resources, the manpower, and the firepower to push back hard against any crackdown. And as tensions rise at the border, one thing is clear: this war is just getting started. The fact is, cartel war isn't some distant conflict. It's already here, spilling over the border and threatening U.S. cities. These criminal organizations aren't just smuggling drugs. They're running military-style operations, rivals, and gearing up for all-out war. With the recent bust, things are about to explode. El Chapo Isidro's cartel has already vowed revenge, and if the past is any indication, it won't be long before we see more violence, more shootouts, and more innocent lives caught in the crossfire. The question isn't if the cartel threat will escalate, it's when, and the U.S. needs to be ready before it's too late, because the clock is ticking and the war is already on our doorstep. What do you think? With cartels openly threatening U.S. officials, is it time for America to deploy elite forces? Should Trump unleash drone strikes on cartel leaders? And if the cartels are already operating in U.S. cities, how long before we see beheadings, kidnappings, and assassinations in American streets? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want real, unfiltered updates on the cartels, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next.